Okay. All right. We are ready to get started with our facility meeting, and so I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. Garza, our board president, is stuck in Texas, so I get to conduct this meeting. Let's start with a flag salute. Oh, awesome. Okay, so just some quick explanations. Even though OPMA has changed, the governor has allowed in-person meetings. There are still 16 qualifications that we have to meet in order to be present in a meeting. So we still have to Zoom, even though Zoom will look different for us. Those in the room, don't turn on Zoom though. So Zoom will look different for if someone's Zooming in. We will still have YouTube. We still have the option for people to be in person, but they have to pre-register. So we do have seating for 10. I'll explain all these things again once we get to our regular meeting, because I know that most people will likely be watching the regular meeting instead of the facility meeting. Let's see. Please give us grace for when we have technical issues, because we're still working these details out. It's been a year since we've been in person. So for the board and student reps, we will need to use our mics and speak into the mics and make sure that you're picked up so that Zoom and YouTube can hear us. It's been a long time since we've used our own mics and gotten accustomed to that. So let's see, I think those were the details that I wanted to share. Anything else that I need to share? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the facility meeting agenda.
I will make that motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, motion by Director Johnson.
I will second.
Second by Director Prowse. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. All right, moving on. So facilities presentation. Dr. Hurst, am I turning this over to you?
Yes. So for the public and for the board, there are some attachments. There's several attachments, and we just wanted to provide a context before we turned it over to the board. And then also we have Greg Fultz here and Becky as well, that's going to be giving us an overview on some information that's in the document. So for the public, you'll notice that there's several documents in here. One's dated February 19, 2019. And that document just shares facility options that was discussed by the board on that particular date. And there, in that presentation, you'll basically see two options, an A priority option, and we're getting to that A priority option. And then also a prioritized list B. So that was on February the 19th, 2019. Then also we want to share with the public that on September the 30th, 2019, there was also a presentation to the board of directors where we were sharing some more immediate needs that we wanted to bring to the board's attention. And we also provided that document to the public. And we're just going to quickly review through that so you can see that list. And I'll just share with the public while we're waiting for that document to open. Some of those items were from Othello High School, the 600 building, the rebuild of that building, Ludocaga roof, the bus garage parking lot, the plotting process for HEDIS, road construction on Ash Street and Scootney, and then track repairs, cold and dry storage facility, and then custodial maintenance technology warehouse, and then we had some safety initiatives that we presented. And what we'll do is we'll go to the next document, since we already went over that one. So after that meeting, we had another meeting, facilities meeting on January the 8th, 2020, and that was more of an individualized priority list from our board members, but it was also part of the facilities committee discussion. And you can see when you look at that list, you can see all of our board members, their names, and then the prioritized list individually by the board members. And then another document in there is dated February the 12th, 2020. And this was also presented by OSD administration, and this was facility considerations. And we presented this to the board and shared that we did not need to go for a capital levy or a bond, and that we could use our capital projects and general funds to do some of these projects. And you can see the list right in front of us. And then before I turn it over to Greg and Becky, there was also a discussion about potential purpose of property within the city limits that was going to be used for an OSD warehouse. Now, that purchase was not successful, but since then we've engaged in several conversations with the board, and what we've done is we've actually hired a third-party consultant, and what they're doing right now is they're analyzing our current cold and dry storage needs and the direction that we should move in, because our last conversation with the board was moving forward with either a purchase of a property and then building on that, or looking at our own existing land. So that individual is actually helping us to determine the most cost-effective way to move forward. And then we'll be sharing that information with the board. And then I'm gonna have Greg kind of talk about that and then provide a timeline with that project as well. And then I'll have also Becky to weigh in. Turn it over to you, Greg.
Testing, there we go. So, we'll just go over the document really quick, page 2, the chart in there. As you can see on the list, no particular order in this list, but the ORTC parking lot issues, we addressed those, and that was completed in May of 2020. Total cost there, and funding is shown if you have questions for Becky. Track renovation was completed in August 1st of 2020. Our warehouse storage, again, like Dr. Hurst said, we have contracted with a consultant. They're looking at our dry, cold, and frozen storage capabilities. And they're actually looking at several options for us, looking at expanding on-site, or expanding off-site, or expanding within our current existing buildings. So that's going to be a very interesting report when they come back to us. Our preschool portables, we've got those installed January 1st of 2021, and they're in them and they're very happy. Traffic renovation with the city, the Ash Street and Scootney project. That project should be underway this summer. It has an estimated project cost of $850,000, with a grant covering $780,000 of it, leaving about $70,000 for the district and the city to share cost with, which is estimated at about $35,000 out of the district's pocket. But we'll know more once bids are open. The additional classroom and gym consideration is under review for the board in the other documents. So is the safety aspect of that. The Lutacaga roof issue that we were encountering, we've had some minor repairs done that should get us by for a few years, but we do know that this will be an ongoing issue with our Lutacaga roof and potentially our MMS roof, as it was built at the same time. The product that was used was, how do I put it? The product for the roofing was not good, and the company has since gone out of business. The warranty is void, and really we're at the point now where we're just going to keep repairing as as much as we can till we hit the point where repair is not an option anymore. And then high school remodel, of course, is still under review for the board. So if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions, either financial or for Greg? I asked the district to put this together. I know that we had talked about that we had gotten sidetracked during COVID and things had stopped. So actually looking at this, there's quite a few things that that we had in the works that we either finished off or we had just approved. So there are things that we have done under the board's direction, ultimately that came under the board's direction on doing projects. We had a big plan to buy some property, then that fell through. We had a big plan to rent some property, to do a long-term lease, that also fell through. So at least I love the idea of having this warehouse storage, a consultant to give their input. And so I kind of wanted us to be able to start with like an overview and to know where those funds came from. So for those that can't see or didn't read little details, GF stands for general fund. So that's just general income from all of our different sources. And CP is capital projects. So that is where those funds specifically came from, so that we can understand that.
I have a question. How much money do we have left in our capital projects fund? Does anybody know?
It's actually in our next meeting. So, I think we still have like 2.4. We had set aside as a board, we approved to set aside $5 million
Right.
a few years ago. I think we still have 2.4, 2.7 left. It actually says it in the regular meeting
Okay.
in that monthly budget. So there's still funds there. And my idea for tonight's meeting was us to just get a general idea so we can start having regular facility meetings again. My idea was also that we set up priorities, like number 1, 2, and 3, or just 1 and 2, so that we're moving forward on those. Obviously, warehouse storage, we're waiting for cold and dry details to come in. 2.6 million is what I'm told is left. And then we come up, my grand dream plan, which I'm totally open because there's more than just me here. We have a 1 to 2 year plan so that we can have that budgeted. We have a 3 to 5 year plan so that we can prepare to budget for those things, whether we decide on a bond, a levy, it come from our capital projects. We just put it in the budget so we are prepared and ready for that, whatever we need to do. A 10-year plan and like a 20-plus year plan. When you go into policies in board docs, there's currently, now I have to look at it because I can't remember, board governance policies and district operating policies. I would like us to have a third thing there that says facilities plan, so that anybody at any time could pull this up. Annually, we review it ourselves and say, okay, so what worked, what didn't work, where do we need to change things on the schedule, those kinds of things. Greg has already had some other amazing, massive reports that he's had to run and do that puts like carpet and lighting and security issues at specific buildings and how far out those are for like long-term maintenance that really needs to be put in our budget for specific years and those kinds of things. So those are my ideas. Thoughts?
Well, I know as we are preparing to sell our property on Lee Road, then comes the question of where to next for the district and our vision moving forward. And so that for me is on the to-do list, is finding some new property for us to put a school. I mean, that school might not be built in our 1 to 2 year plan, but it's definitely needing to be on our 3 to 5 year radar. And so, and we know now how long the process takes to even make a decision to sell property. And so the decision to buy something and all of that takes such a long time. I think that should be something that's on our priority list, is to find new land for a potential school. And also the storage facility, which we won't have an answer for that for a few more months, but I think that's great, Greg, that you guys have hired somebody and are being proactive about that and kind of getting a really solid idea of what we need and what that will look like for us moving forward. So thank you for that. We know our high school needs help. I mean, our high school needs a big renovation. We have work to do. I mean, it's a little daunting feeling like, where do we start when we have so much to do? So I'm glad we're hitting the ground running. I mean, like you said, we hit a major hiccup with COVID, but it's time to buckle down and get serious about where we're going, or we'll blink and we'll be 2 years down the road and say, shoot, 2 years ago we should have thought of something.
Okay, so my top priority is the high school. After talking to OHS staff, admin, they're going to be very short on room next year. I think we have to make a plan for the 600 wing, possibly extending it into the corridor, and possibly, which I'm not really big on portables, but brand new portables to help them out, because they are going to be so tight. And if we bring everyone back, I'm not sure where we're going to put all the kids. My plan for a new school would be past 5 years. I'm sorry. I know everybody wants a new school. We have things that we have to get done now. And so that's not in my priority. I know it's on Lindsay's, but you know, it's an outcome of what the whole town wants and what they think they can afford. So that's
So
my plan.
Sharon, just as a question,
Yes.
when we sell the property,
Mhm.
would you want to take that money into, turn it into building what we currently have? Or would you want to take that into, I think Lindsay was just suggesting that we take that money and buy something else that we could build on. Not that it's, depending upon whatever our needs are when that comes, just be ready with something.
I'm more for getting our repairs taken care of.
'Kay.
Greg, do you have like have you ever had a bid, which I know they change periodically, all the time, on a new roof for Luticaga?
For Luticaga?
Mhm.
God, Orland gave me that number too, and I didn't write it down when I came in
Oh,
here, but it's upwards of 150,000. I mean, the price of materials has just jumped so fast. Most people can't even keep up with the pricing right now. And if you have a bid from last month, it's null and
No,
void.
that's what I knew. And then,
Yeah.
but then what is the repairs every time we go and do a little spot repair on the roof? How much is that adding up to?
10 to 20,000.
So-
Because if they're there, we're gonna have them walk the whole roof.
Yeah, I mean, what's the difference? We would look more at 150 would be nothing compared to what, 20,000 to 30,000 every year for 5 years, and we still wouldn't have a new roof. I would like to see Luticaga roof situation looked at first, but we have to figure out at the high school. I don't know where we're going to put all the kids. I understand, I think the kids in the junior high are even, the numbers are higher now than they were this last year. And I know the freshman class was large. There might be 1 year in the between there that goes a little lower, but I don't know. I mean, and I know the gyms are really spendy, but that would alleviate some of that space that we could use at the elementaries for classes.
I just want to clarify a question that you had asked Greg. If we were to do the whole roof at Luticaga, can we still have students in there when we're doing that? Or is that something that could only be done either during the summer or without children?
Oh, you would schedule it as a summer project. It would be too intrusive on instruction in the classroom.
Okay, so since the plan was to have summer school at every single campus, we'd have to do, like, what part of that roof and McFarland? Are we talking the white part?
All the white part, all the TPO, all the rubber membrane.
So that is where currently the office is and that whole,
The whole
like,
wing.
L-shaped building
Yes.
at Luticaga. At
And-
McFarland, it's the whole center.
At McFarland, it's pretty much the whole building. At Lutacaga, it's the main 2 wings, classrooms 1 through 20, the gym, the music room, all
Okay.
of those.
Also, I'm getting word that we have to speak very close to our mic. Masks make it even worse. So,
Okay. One other question is on the 600 wing. Ventilation systems, how is the roof there? Is it worth us keep nickel and diming ourselves to repair? Should we have a good look at possibly remodeling or tearing that down and just putting new rooms in there?
I mean, our maintenance staff and our consultants have done a great job. We've got the roof repaired in the recent, the ventilation system is still operating. It meets the requirements of today's code. So it's still functioning, it's still bringing in the fresh air needed. The COVID fresh air, it meets those requirements. But yeah, it's a 40-year-old building.
Yes, it is.
It's, we're gonna keep maintaining it as long as we can. And even when something big hits, we're gonna fix it because we need the space.
Yes.
And it's still cheaper to do that than it is to do something else. So until there's some money to offset that and a plan, we'll keep maintaining it.
Greg, do you have any idea how much it would cost to, maybe this question isn't even for you, but building off of your OHS comment, Sharon, I think, and I have talked to Jen about this in the past, that we need to hire an architect or a consultant or somebody to give us a master plan so that when we do find ourselves with $2 million extra, and let's say we'll have a surplus next year of X amount of dollars, we can say, okay, by the summer of 2022, we're ready to rip down the 600 wing and move into phase 1 of our big project, which includes 7 phases of reconstructing our high school and adding different wings and connecting it together or whatever we decide. I don't want to just put Band-Aids on different situations and be like, man, would have been nice 5 years ago before we did the 600 wing if we knew how that was going to fit into the new 400 wing and all of the stuff. So I think we should get a master plan of our high school and then decide how we're going to attack it, whether it's with a big giant bond or whether it's, $3 million at a time that we can come up with. Do you have any idea how much that kind of master plan, or do you know somebody we could contact?
Consultants?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have consultants we can contact. I mean, you're looking at tens of thousands, 20 to 30, depending on how far you go. But it's a great idea. You should have a consultant. They do this every day. We also have the ESD. We have resources at the ESD that don't cost us things that would help us with learning the funding and bringing them into the room like we did before. Dax was here 2 years ago. I still have his document right here that showed the matching funds available back then based on our cohort. Yeah, you need to have them in the conversation because they're really going to help you with deciding your bonds, your levies, and your matching funds available.
Ken, your turn.
Yes. First thing, protecting our facilities. And if Lutacaga's got a bad roof, we need to take care of it right away. That's how I think, because if we just keep on chasing it down the road, it's going to cost us more, and it's going to cost us more in damage down the road. So I believe that's a priority to get on and have it done this summer when school's out. High school is a big thing for me right now. Lindsay, Sharon, great ideals. I'm on you with that. I believe we need a consultant to start off with. We need some drawings, and like you said, phasing our high school in, because we've got a lot of work to do there to accommodate the future for us there. And I think it would work much better on selling the project, because I think we're eventually going to have to go to a bond to do what we need to at the high school. And I think it would help a lot in order for us to sell that, to show the public what we're doing, the phases, and how we could approach that and attack that. That's one of my top priorities, is the high school. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get it done before the big bump comes up that they're anticipating, because it does take a couple of years. I know we're going to see a plan, well, not a plan, but a proposal for some portables here in the future. And in the last 3.5 years, we've already purchased 5 portables and leased 4, I believe. So here we are collecting to our collection of portables again, like we were here quite a few years back. And I don't want classrooms and portables, but that's what we're forced with right now and we have to deal with. So I want to approach it that way so we could start to eliminate those portables or not looking at them, what we could do, so.
Ken, I just wanted to add to that, keep in mind when you're talking remodel, you're going to see more portables during the remodel.
Yes,
Because
I
you'll
agree with
displace
that.
students, so
yes,
we'll look, that's least common options.
yes.
Student reps, I want to hear what your thoughts.
Sorry, I was turning my mic on. Is it on? Can you hear me?
Maybe closer.
Closer. Oh, there it goes. Okay. I haven't been around the majority of our facilities besides, like, I think it was, where did we go?
We went to Desert Oasis most recently, and
I didn't
then
get to go to that
Othello
one.
High.
It was Othello High that we went to. It's the only one that I've been to. And then just Wauketas and Luticaga. But I see the majority of the issues at the high school. And that's where I think we should start, but that's probably biased. But I know that, like, in the music room, the roof is literally falling out. Like, there's a hole in the ceiling. I know last year the cave caved in and, like, the roof fell out onto a computer. I think that we should start at the high school, but I know that that costs a lot of money. So we'll start where we can, I guess.
Thank you.
I agree. Oh, nope.
You're good.
Okay. I agree with Lauren. I definitely think we're biased, but I do think that I see majority of the issues at the high school, and I have been to some of the other facilities. I go to, like, the middle school because my siblings go there, so I've been in there recently, and a couple of the elementary schools. But yeah, I think majority of our issues are at the high school, and even with, like, COVID and we're on like split schedules and stuff, there's still so many students and so little space. So
Okay. So I'm hearing the high school as a major issue. What I'm hearing, I think, is that we want to have a phased, specific plan, that we want to spend the money now to get an architect or a consultant or whatever, at least start going that route, to come up with plans, like long range, possibly 2-story, how could we make this work, different kinds of things like that. I think that we would like pricing and timeline on Luticaga roof so that we can make a more informed decision. I know you're coming up with estimates and that those numbers change constantly, and by the time we actually make a decision, it's going to take even longer. But it sounds like a majority of us want to know maybe we need to look into a permanent fix, starting with the Luticaga roof, and then after that, then we could decide, could we even tackle McFarland? Is it even worth it, or is that a whole other nightmare? Seeing your face, and I don't know if everybody else can see that face.
Greg,
Awesome.
actually, you know the construction quite a bit. You know, if we wanted a job like that done in the summer, we need to start working on it now, because contractors are going to start.
Yesterday,
setting up,
they're
yes.
already set up for this summer.
Yes, they're setting up their work already.
Getting it in this summer would be really tough, but we can push for it.
So we've already, I mean, it's a number I'm not going to hold you to, but you said about 150,000, but that could change. We all know that, but that's something that we can work with in our current budget right now. Like, and I can't emphasize more, it's very important to protect the facilities that we do have right now, so no further damage comes to them.
It looks like we're all in agreement, at least getting more information and knowing if we could move forward with that with the hope of this summer seeing what the realities are. I mean, we know, we get that might work, that might not work. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, so Luticaga has been on my radar. I didn't know McFarland was having issues with their roof as well. How bad is McFarland?
McFarland has the same membrane on their roof that Luticaga had. They were built at the same time. When we had the repairs done at Luticaga, we had a few done at McFarland, and their comment was, well, it's better than we expected. But there's no guarantee for any of the repairs. No one, we were able to find a company to come in and do some repairs and patch it and say, okay, well, it'll last as long as we're here. It's just one of those things that you got to keep working on it, and we can get pricing for it. It's going to cost a lot, I mean, to replace the whole thing. So you got to make the decision, do we just keep patching it? Do we let it go and have a catastrophic event that our insurance might cover? Do we be proactive and repair the thing? I mean, those are your choices.
Okay, so I think we're ready to at least come up with a number for Luticaga and a timeline, knowing that McFarland is not, McFarland potentially has issues because it's the same type and the same time, but not necessarily yet. And I think that we need to do one and then go, oh, that was a disaster, or that wasn't as bad as we thought, whatever, and then move forward with the next step. So it sounds like those are pretty much universally the largest issues. Sell the property. I mean, we didn't say that, but we've already made that decision and that we're trying to move forward with that plan. Come up with a multi-phased plan for Othello High for the long-range plan with prices, knowing that those numbers could change so that we could start phases.
Not only like a consultant giving us ideas of what we need, but also like in my perfect world, we would have like drawings that we can see and say, this is what our ideal high school would look like when we're done. Here's how we can break it up, but not just like, oh, you need, this size band room and you need this and this, but actual architectural plans saying this is what our high school will look like when it's done, so that we know we can break these into phases.
Perfect. So an architect instead of a consultant.
Well, I mean both. I don't know. I'm not sure what the right
They
answer
would work
is
in
to that.
conjunction. You'd put out an RFQ
Okay.
as a board stating what you want.
Okay.
What do you want done to the public? And you would receive your request for qualifications would come back from your architect or the consultant, the company that would be initiating it, and give you a proposal as to what it's going to cost and timeline.
Okay. Yeah, in conjunction. That's what I'm
Yep.
looking for.
Love it. Okay, I'm all over that. Are we ready to say that we want that done? What do we as a board need to do to say, do that? Put out an RFQ.
If it's coming from the board would put the RFQ out. If it's coming from the district, then we would. So we just need to write up what we want in our what do we want in the RFQ? What are we looking for? You want a design plans that's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, or do you want a concept as a phase plan? If you want to start, if you're going to pay architectural fees to go in and actually look at the building and design it and have the design ready to go, I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay, so how do we move forward with demolishing a 600 wing and putting on a new one without architectural plans?
You don't. But if you, normally the process is you come up with a concept.
Okay.
This is what it could look like. You pay an architect a small fee for that. Then you pass your bond, and then you use your bond money to pay the architectural fees to actually get into the nitty gritty.
Okay, so we're looking at more
But it doesn't have to go that way. You can go any way you want.
Well, maybe we don't need full architectural plans with like electrical layout and stuff like that, but conceptual drawings to say this is what we want it to look like. And then when we're ready to break out the 600 wing, then we get our actual plans that have the electrical layout and the plumbing layout and all of that kind of stuff.
So you said the word, are we looking for a conceptual layout?
Conceptual drawings, like what we had before in the last bond. You had a conceptual plan of the high school, like it could look like this, but things can move around based on needs. So if your
Okay.
plumbing doesn't line up right where it needs to be and it's gonna be too costly to put the gym where we hid in the concept, it could get moved over here or something. And that was a really quick concept.
I wanted a little bit firmer than that
You want it more,
concept.
yeah, it's gonna be more than that.
More detailed.
Yeah.
A little
More
more,
detailed.
not like full-on design build, we're
So-
ready to go,
Yeah.
but a
So
little
we'll
bit more than
we'll write up
concept.
we'll write up an RFQ of some kind, and let's see what we get back from the architects.
Okay.
Because that's really what's gonna drive us. If they come back and say, we can't do what you're asking for the price you're asking for it, then we'll have to revisit it.
Okay.
So I want to read this, can I read this text? Okay, this text comes from Becky. OSPI school construction is also a resource for the district needs to look at first, are there urgent repair grants and other school construction dollars that we may be able to look at? Scott Black should be contacted before we move ahead with a consultant, and a survey and a study and survey will be helpful. I'm not sure if the district is eligible for a study and survey grant, but there are some construction documents in the fiscal office. So, hey, if we can get state money to do it, awesome. Let's go after that too. I know that we have grant writers and people that can look into those details within the district. So I know that there is money potentially for the 600 wing and different things like that. So at that stage, we would then call in DAX and other ESD people to get us started through that process and stuff. So it sounds like those are our big priorities. Sal, what's the plan with Othello High School and coming up with the next step at Luticaga's roof, so that we can then make a more informed decision? So what do you guys think about having a list under policies? I mean, it will take months for us to come up with these details. This is not just, oh, sure, in one meeting, 1 hour, we can do this. I understand that this is like a long-range plan. And then we could go to the community, talking to the community throughout the entire process and say, here's our plan. We want you guys to give us your input. Maybe we could actually have a forum in person by the time we have it together, or a bunch of small ones or something. Thoughts?
I definitely think that we should move forward with that.
Okay.
Have it on our budget so we know, hey, next year we got to replace all the carpet at Hiawatha, and the year after that we got to redo the roof at Wahitas, or whatever it is. I mean, there's always going to be unforeseen things that come up that we, maybe is not on our radar, but for the most part, we need some sort of a maintenance type budget that is facilities related that we can follow up with.
Right.
With our
Correct.
policies.
Greg, if we were going to look ahead of just getting some portables for the high school, how many months are we out now to put that order in? I know that has to be done right away.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get any answers from our contact at Modern Building last week because they were out of power.
Okay,
Because I asked for price, timeline, and where we at on our current leases, because we have to take that into consideration too. I believe we have 2 that the lease is up at the end of the year that we'll have to renew or purchase. So as soon as I get that information from him, I'll share it.
thank you. Yes, Jen, I think we could go ahead on that policy.
Okay, awesome.
Sorry.
Okay, so just for clarification as to what we're asking the district to do right now, we want to put out an RFQ for concept/plans for Othello High in multi-phases. So I'm just looking for nods
Yes.
to make sure, or yeses. We want to come up with pricing for Luticaga's roof for a complete repair of all of the current problems, and a timeline realistic timeline, how long will it take? Could we get in the summer to have that done so we can make a more informed decision next? And sell our property for an awesome price.
And also look into the urgent care,
Yes.
urgent repair costs, and any other money that we could get from the state that we wouldn't have to ask our taxpayers for would
Or
be
use-
amazing.
Yes, or use our current funds.
Yes.
Exactly.
Possibly, I say possibly maybe we could get a kind of a bid with McFarland and Luticaga. Would they give us a better deal with 2 roofs? I mean, I don't know. Not familiar with this. But just to have it in case it's a very viable thing, and if we're able to get some help from the state, that we could do both.
Yeah, they would still bid it separately. I don't know if we
Okay.
get much, especially when you're asking it that way, like, we might do it, we might not. So,
Okay. All right.
Trying to save us some money.
So
I try every day, Sharon.
we know you do, Greg. Awesome. Thank you. I think that for our next step as a board, we then need to start putting together our 1 to 2 and 3 to 5 year plan off of those massive reports that Greg has given us in the past about the different projects. And then also including some of these other, excuse me, these other facility needs that we've already discussed that need to be dealt with, how and where we could put safety into that whole mix. Do we want to do all of them at once? Do we want to do one building at a time? I know that, Greg, we've asked you probably 20 times to come up with pricing for those locks and all of those things. I'm not asking you to do that right now. I'm just saying in the future that will come again.
Lucky.
Classrooms and gyms at the elementary schools. No one really said that that's one of the 1, 2, and 3 priority. We could put this into the mix in our 2 to 10 year plan, or however we wanted to do that. We know that the warehouse storage details will be coming back, does it say April 1st? So that will be in the mix. Once we know those details, that might end up moving up on the priority list or small portions of that, or who knows? So, do we want to plan now when our next facility meeting will be?
So when we come together for our next meeting, do you want us to have done our list of priorities for each of these categories?
That would be awesome. If we had our own list for those priorities, but we will need to have Greg's list in, remind us where where you can find that in our documents, because I know it's already in there, so that we could come up with our 1 to 2 year plan and our 3 to 5 year plan. I think those need to be our next biggest priorities that we create.
Yeah.
So that we can start budgeting that in.
Jen, what do we foresee as capital funds that we're going to have put aside by, let's say, this summer?
So we already have 2.6 million of the 5 million that we had originally said we're setting this aside for capital projects. We still have 2.6 million available. You could also look in our financials and projects, or our financial report in the next meeting. It says very specifically undesignated funds. There's also those that are claimed but not used yet. That's not the right word. What's the right word, Becky? Text Chris, please. I know you know what I'm talking about. So those kinds of things. Anyways, I know there's 2.6. And then we can always say we want X number amount set aside every year for these planned major maintenance plans.
If we sell the land here in a short while, will that money go directly into that fund?
Wherever we decide for it to go, or we're told it needs to go.
I believe it should go into the capital, because I think we need to still keep our eyes and our thoughts open for a potential piece of property, if it does come open, that we are ready to purchase at that time.
I agree.
I think the money should go in there.
Okay. So we kind of, I mean, we don't want to use all of that money, especially at first. So, Greg, how long do you think it will take to get the RFQ put together and for a timeline for us to like be opening things and being able to talk to people? Because we as a board don't know those kind of timelines.
I don't know I don't know off the top of my head the
4
timeline
months?
for that.
8 months?
We can try for 3.
Okay,
Let's shoot for 3 to get something written, published. I don't know what the timeline is that's required, if it's 30 days or 20 days, and
okay.
see what responses we get.
So let's see, that means May, June-ish to have an RFQ published and out. Then how long for a roof bid? Or an idea?
I think Orland already has that. He's not responding to me, but hopefully a couple weeks
Okay.
max.
So possibly the next meeting. Okay, if we have that by the next meeting, Chris, can you put that in our regular meeting minutes for the board discussion part, just so we could, because we could make I don't know if we're going to be ready to make a decision then, but we could at least get ready to be moving forward with the idea there. Does that work for everyone?
Yes.
Okay,
Greg, with the roof on Luticaga, would that have to go out because of the dollar amount on it? It would have to go out for bids.
Correct,
Actually,
unless we use a vendor from KCDA
Okay.
or another,
And if we could do that, it would save a lot of time.
would save
possibly.
time, yes.
great. Okay, that sounds awesome. All right, next time we as a board plan to meet, do we want... Oh, Becky's trying to talk to us, would like to talk to us. Thank you, Becky, for your expertise. It's always great to make sure that we are on track and being fiscally responsible for the future as well. So, just because we...
There was some discussion about the unreserved fund balance. And again, with the unreserved fund balance, it's like, the balance in your bank account, you don't want to take it down too low.
Okay. All right. So yes, just because we use those numbers doesn't mean just because we have those numbers doesn't mean we need to use those numbers, right? So, Okay, so next, Greg?
I just wanted to add to what Becky said, that Becky and I had discussed, was just because you have those numbers, keep in mind we have, I mean, if we already talked about portables at the high school, that starts chunking into that. We have portables that are leased that if we choose to purchase or continue lease, it comes into your budget. So we have liabilities out there already that may not be in your forefront when you're looking at the 2.6 number.
Perfect.
Greg, I couldn't remember, I can't recollect. Were those lease options that what we paid in would go towards purchasing? Or was it just strictly leased?
I don't know, that's what I was asking the consultant, and he couldn't
Okay.
get to his.
Okay,
So he'll,
thanks.
as soon as he gets back to us, we'll know those numbers or
Okay.
those options.
Okay.
Great. As a board, are we ready to pick our next facility meeting? What do we think about a month from now? So an hour before a meeting, do we want to pick a special day? That would be March 22nd, or do we want to pick a different day of the week? Do we think an hour to start putting together those plans?
I think an hour is good. Do we have a regular board meeting on the 22nd?
We do, March 22nd.
Then yeah, I would say I like the timing.
Greg, is that a bad day for you? I heard a noise.
I was way off on the roof number.
Oh,
Okay.
Orland's responding
$500,000,
for just Luticaga.
just Luticaga.
Was his guess or I don't want to know how much or how educated that was. Just never mind.
Yeah, well, let's get a written quote and let's go with that. So when
Okay.
we come back to you.
Thank you, and a timeline. Okay, so the 22nd of March at 6 p.m.
That works for me.
Great. Sharon?
I guess so.
Okay.
I don't have a calendar on
The
me.
calendar's not here on your wall at home. Okay. Does that work for the district? Okay. And Greg, does that work for you? Okay. All right, awesome. Anything else we need to discuss at the facilities meeting before we adjourn and then go to our regular meeting in a few moments? So we have a chocolate break. Oh, was that a yes? Or was that Chuck
Okay.
Chocolate over here? Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right. Then we're going to adjourn from our facility meeting, and then we will start our regular board meeting at 7 o'clock.